Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This game is like every Star Wars fan's dream come to life. Seriously, if you've ever imagined wielding a lightsaber, dodging blaster shots, or facing off against terrifying Sith enemies, Fallen Order is the game for you. It just pulls you in and makes you feel like a Jedi in training, and it's just so much fun. This game takes you all over the Star Wars galaxy, from lush forests to crumbling ancient ruins, and everything in between. Each planet has its own feel, its own mysteries, and its own set of enemies and challenges. There's this amazing sense of adventure as you move from planet to planet, uncovering secrets, exploring caves, and finding new paths. And the level design is a blast. It's got that classic Metroidvania vibe, where you keep discovering new abilities that let you access areas you couldn't reach before. You're constantly rewarded for exploring and backtracking, which just makes the whole journey so satisfying. Swinging a lightsaber in Fallen Order feels right. There's a weight to it, and when you deflect a blaster bolt back at a stormtrooper, pure joy. The combat strikes this perfect balance between fun and challenging. It's not button mashing. You actually have to time your attacks, parries, and dodges to succeed, which makes every encounter feel intense and meaningful. Plus, as you go along, you get to customize your lightsaber. You can pick different colors, hilts, and other parts to make it feel like your weapon, which is just such a cool touch. Fallen Order has an incredible story that feels like it could totally be its own Star Wars movie. Next we have Returnal. So the first thing you need to know about Returnal is that it's a roguelike, which means you're going to die. A lot. And that's okay because every death is a chance to learn, improve, and push just a little bit further. The game drops you into this eerie, alien world where everything is trying to kill you. And I do mean everything. But instead of being frustrating, it's exciting. Each time you come back, the world changes, the environments shift, the enemies move differently, and you're left wondering what's around the next corner. It's addictive in the best way. The combat is fast, fluid, and incredibly satisfying. You've got all these crazy weapons and gadgets at your disposal, and each one feels unique. Whether you're zipping around, dodging neon bullet storms, or pulling off a perfect shot midair, it feels like you're in a sci-fi action movie. It's chaotic, but in a way that makes you feel totally in control. Like, yeah, the odds are stacked against you, but you've got the skills to survive. The level design is so well done that even when you're running through the same areas multiple times, it never gets boring. You'll stumble upon ruins, weird alien tech, and these hauntingly quiet moments that make you stop and just look. There's this constant sense of, what happened here, that drives you to explore deeper. And this game is tough. It's not going to hold your hand or let you off easy. But when you finally overcome a challenging boss or make it further than you ever have before, it's the best feeling in the world. You'll sit there like, I did that. It's a game that rewards patience and perseverance. Next we have Uncharted 4. This is one of those games that grabs you from the very first moment. If you've played any of the previous Uncharted games, you know what to expect. Action, adventure, treasure hunts, and a lot of intense moments. But Uncharted 4 just hits differently. It feels like a perfect blend of everything we loved about the series, but with a more mature, reflective tone. Nathan Drake is back, and this time, he's facing his greatest challenge yet. What's really cool is that the game dives deeper into his personal life, showing a side of Nathan we don't usually see. He's older, more settled, and you can tell he's trying to move on from his treasure hunting days. But of course, things don't stay quiet for long. The game does a great job of building up that tension between wanting to leave the past behind and being pulled back in. It's something that feels relatable, even if we're not all globe-trotting adventurers. The visuals in this game are absolutely stunning. Whether you're scaling cliffs in Scotland or exploring ancient ruins in Madagascar, everything looks so incredibly detailed. Sometimes, I would just stop for a moment to take in the scenery, which is something I don't usually do in action games. The environments feel alive, and they draw you into the story in a way that makes it feel like you're watching a movie, but also in control of the action. Speaking of the action, Uncharted 4 nails the gameplay. The combat, the platforming, and even the puzzle solving all feel smooth and satisfying. Next we have Dragon's Dogma 2. After playing this game, I have to say it really exceeded my expectations. I mean, I was excited going in, sure, but once I actually got my hands on it, I realized just how much Capcom stepped up their game. Everything feels bigger, better, and more immersive than the first one. First off, the world is massive. I remember just wandering around for hours, not even on a quest, just exploring. The sense of adventure is so strong here. Every corner of the map feels like it has something interesting to uncover. Whether it's a hidden cave, a random group of enemies, or just a breathtaking view, you always feel like you're discovering something new. The combat, though, that's where the game shines. It's fast, fluid, and really customizable. I spent so much time tweaking my character's build, trying out different classes. One moment I was a nimble strider, darting around enemies, and the next I was a towering warrior smashing through everything. Every fight feels dynamic, especially with the new monster encounters. Those big hulking creatures, they're no joke. Climbing onto their backs mid-fight is such a rush. But what I loved most was the pawn system. They've really refined it. My pawn wasn't just a sidekick, they were essential. I grew so attached to them, seeing how they adapted to my playstyle. Sometimes I felt like they were learning faster than I was. It's cool to see your pawn in someone else's game too. I got some great items because other players were borrowing mine and leveling them up. Next we have Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Honestly, this game is one of the most fun entries in the whole Assassin's Creed series. I feel like it doesn't get talked about as much as it should, but the second you start running around Victorian London as Jacob or Evie Fry, you realize just how much of a blast it is. Syndicate nails the feel of 1860s London in a way that's just incredible. You've got the foggy streets, the towering landmarks like Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament, and that gritty industrial vibe where factories are pumping smoke into the sky. The attention to detail is nuts. You can literally ride horse-drawn carriages through the city or scale the rooftops and just take in the view. It really makes you feel like you've been dropped right into that time period. And the fact that you get to switch between two protagonists, that was such a smart move. Jacob and Evie have totally different vibes, and it keeps things fresh. Jacob's all about getting his hands dirty and brawling with enemies, while Evie's more of a stealthy, strategic assassin. I loved switching between them, depending on the mission, or how I felt like playing. And the sibling dynamic between them is just great. The combat in Syndicate feels super smooth too. It's fast, it's brutal, and it's a lot of fun, especially when you're just diving into a group of enemies and throwing punches. Plus, the new grappling hook, total game changer. 1 second you're on the street, the next you're ziplining across rooftops like Batman. It's the most fun I've had with movement in an AC game for sure. At the end of the day, this game is just fun. It's not trying to be overly serious or bog you down with too many mechanics. Next we have Dark Souls 3. This game is like a test of your patience, skill, and determination, but in the most rewarding way. It's tough, no doubt about it, but that's what makes it so satisfying. If you're into games that push you, Dark Souls 3 is an experience you won't forget. First off, the world. The atmosphere in this game is just something else. Every area feels heavy with history, like the ruins and castles you walk through have seen centuries of battles and chaos. There's this haunting beauty to it, you know? You're walking through these desolate, crumbling places, but at the same time, they're gorgeous. It really pulls you in, like you just want to explore every corner, even if it means getting your ass kicked. And speaking of getting your ass kicked, the combat. Man, it's brutal. But once you get the hang of it, it's like a dance. You can't just go in swinging like in other games. Timing, dodging, and learning your enemy's moves are key. Every fight, whether it's a basic enemy or one of those insane bosses, feels like a challenge that you're either going to conquer or get humbled by. One thing I love about Dark Souls 3 is how it respects you as a player. It doesn't hold your hand or give you a bunch of tutorials. You're just thrown into this dark, dangerous world and expected to figure it out. At first, it's super intimidating, but you start picking up on little things. The lore, how the world is connected, the strategies you need to survive. It's almost like you're part of a secret club where you learn by trial and error, and the payoff is huge. So yeah, Dark Souls 3 is tough, but that's the point. Next we have Days Gone. I'll admit, when I first heard about it, I wasn't expecting too much, but once I started playing, I got hooked. It's one of those open-world games where you get so lost in the world that hours just fly by. And let's be real, who doesn't love a good post-apocalyptic story with zombies? Or I guess freakers in this case. The thing that stands out to me the most is the world itself. Oregon, but post-apocalyptic. It's both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. You're riding your bike through these gorgeous landscapes, like snow-capped mountains and dense forests, but you know danger is lurking around every corner. It's such a cool mix of peaceful and intense. I remember just cruising down the highway at sunset, only to get ambushed by a freaker horde or a pack of wolves out of nowhere. Speaking of the bike, Days Gone really makes it feel like your best friend. I know it sounds weird, but you're constantly upgrading it, maintaining it, and using it to get out of some really tight spots. Running out of gas in the middle of nowhere, with freakers closing in, is one of those moments where you're like, okay, this is serious. But when you've got your bike tuned up and ready to go, it's an absolute blast to just ride through the wilderness, wind in your hair, dodging obstacles and escaping enemies. And then there's Deacon. I didn't expect to get so attached to his story, but as the game went on, I really started to feel for the guy. The freaker hordes, though, insane. The first time you run into one, it's pure panic. I'm talking hundreds of freakers coming at you all at once, and you have to figure out how to take them down, or just run for your life. Next we have Fort Solis. The first thing that really grabs you about Fort Solis is how it pulls you into its world. Right off the bat, it nails that eerie, isolated feel. You're on this remote Mars station, and something's clearly gone wrong. You can almost feel the quiet, cold atmosphere seep into you. What I love most about this game is its pacing. It's not an action-packed thrill ride. Instead, it's all about building suspense and making you feel like you're uncovering the mystery at your own pace. It's very narrative-driven. Almost like you're in an interactive movie or one of those late-night sci-fi thrillers. You don't have all the answers, and the game doesn't throw them at you right away. It's all about exploration and discovery. And honestly, that's so refreshing. I found myself so absorbed in just walking around, piecing things together, and letting myself get lost in the story. The game also encourages you to explore, and that's where it gets even more interesting. You'll stumble upon logs, notes, and little clues that add to the story bit by bit. It's like you're this detective, piecing together what happened, and each discovery pulls you deeper into the mystery. There's something so satisfying about slowly uncovering the truth and piecing together the lives of people you never actually meet. It's that attention to detail that makes the whole experience feel rich and rewarding. The game doesn't hold your hand. You're given the freedom to explore, to dig around, to figure things out on your own. It respects your curiosity. Next we have The Surge 2. I feel like it doesn't get enough credit, but I had such a good time with it. If you're into that whole Souls-like experience, but with a sci-fi twist, this game is exactly what you need. It takes that punishing, tactical combat formula and throws it into this futuristic, dystopian world, which is a super cool setting for this kind of gameplay. The thing that really hooked me was the combat. It's brutal, but in the best way. You're not just hacking and slashing mindlessly. You actually have to target specific limbs, which adds a whole new layer of strategy. I loved figuring out which part of an enemy I wanted to focus on. Do I go for the unarmored areas for an easy kill? Or do I try to chop off a limb to get some sweet gear? Every fight felt like a puzzle, and I never got tired of that. Jericho City has this gritty industrial feel to it. The world building is solid. There's this mix of high-tech and complete chaos, and as you explore, you find out more about what went wrong in this messed-up future. The city itself is pretty open, with tons of shortcuts and hidden paths, which made exploring feel rewarding. Plus, the verticality of the levels was cool. You're not just walking through corridors. You're jumping, climbing, and finding secret areas that connect back in smart ways. It had that same feeling as Dark Souls, in how the world loops back on itself. The story is pretty interesting too. You're kind of dropped into this mess without much context, and as you play, you slowly piece together what happened in Jericho City. Next we have Silent Hill 2 Remake. I've got to say, it totally nails that eerie, unsettling vibe that made the original such a classic. I mean, Silent Hill 2 is already one of the most iconic horror games out there, but this remake, it's like they took all the stuff that creeped us out back in the day and cranked it up with these incredible graphics and sound design. The foggy town of Silent Hill looks absolutely gorgeous in this remake. Well, in a terrifying, twisted way, of course. The way the fog moves, the way the shadows creep along the streets, it's so atmospheric. Walking through those empty, run-down streets, you can just feel the tension building. I caught myself hesitating before turning corners, just bracing for whatever nightmare was waiting around the bend. The monsters are just insane. Pyramid Head is back, and just as horrifying as ever. Seeing him in high definition? Yeah, it gave me chills. And the sound design makes it even worse. In the best way. You'll hear these distant, unsettling noises, and it just puts you on edge the entire time. The sound of the radio static kicking in right before a monster appears still gets me every time. What I also love is how faithful the remake is to the original, but it also adds some nice quality of life improvements. The controls feel smoother. The combat is a little more refined, but it still keeps that you're not some action hero vibe. Every encounter with a monster feels dangerous, like you're barely scraping by, which is exactly what you want in a horror game like this. If you're into survival horror at all, or if you loved the original, you've got to check this out. Next we have Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that absolutely dominated conversations when it came out, but somehow didn't win Game of the Year. And I get it, God of War was a beast in 2018. But let's be honest, Red Dead Redemption 2 was something else. This was a game that didn't just tell a story, it lived and breathed one. The world Rockstar created in Red Dead Redemption 2 was so immersive, it felt like the Old West was right there in front of you. And the detail? Insane. You could spend hours just wandering around, hunting, fishing, getting into random encounters. And every part of it felt like it was happening in real time. Rockstar nailed the atmosphere, from the dynamic weather to how towns felt alive. Even your horse had personality. People get so attached to their horses like it's a real companion. Now, the story is where the game really shines. Arthur Morgan? Easily one of the most complex, well-written characters in gaming. His whole journey of redemption, loyalty, and questioning his place in the gang gave players an emotional roller coaster. The game nailed that perfect blend of realism and fun. The way the world reacts to your choices, whether you're being honorable or wreaking havoc, makes every playthrough feel personal and unique. In the end, Red Dead Redemption 2 deserved all the praise and then some. It was more than just a game. It was an experience. The fact that it didn't win Game of the Year is still something people talk about, because it left such a lasting impact. Next we have Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I can honestly say, it's unlike anything I've played before. Right from the beginning, it sets a tone that's dark, emotional, and deeply immersive. You can tell it's more than just an action-adventure game. There's a deeper story here, and it pulls you in with every step Senua takes on her journey. The story is so emotional, especially as it deals with mental health in such a powerful way. The way they portray Senua's psychosis, the voices in her head, it's also unsettling but fascinating at the same time. It's like you're constantly living inside her mind, and that really makes you connect with her. It's rare to see a game tackle such a heavy topic with so much respect and depth. And then there's the combat. It's intense, but it's not over the top. It feels personal. Like every fight is a struggle for survival. You're not just slashing through enemies for the sake of it. Each battle feels like it has weight, like Senua's fighting for something bigger. And the way the game makes you feel isolated, with those stunning landscapes that somehow feel both beautiful and haunting, it just adds to the experience. The audio design really stood out to me too. Wearing headphones made a huge difference. The voices surround you, whispering in your ear, sometimes confusing you, sometimes guiding you. It's such a smart use of sound to mess with your mind, making you question what's real. Just like Senua, I found myself genuinely tense during certain moments. Not because of jump scares, but because of that constant feeling of unease. Next we have BioShock Infinite. This game had a huge amount of hype before its release, and when it finally came out, some people loved it, and others felt it was a step down from the more atmospheric and horror-focused tone of the first two games in the series. One of the big reasons it got some backlash was that it moved away from the darker, more claustrophobic setting of Rapture to the bright, floating city of Columbia. Instead of lurking around creepy corridors, you're soaring through the sky on rails, fighting in these grand, open environments. That change in tone didn't sit well with some players who were hoping for the same intense, eerie vibes they got in the original BioShock. The combat also shifted to be a lot more fast-paced and action-heavy, which wasn't everyone's cup of tea. Some fans missed the slower, more strategic approach of the earlier games, and they felt like Infinite was a little too much like a standard first-person shooter. The introduction of Elizabeth as an AI companion, while praised by many for how well she was integrated into gameplay, also rubbed some players the wrong way, feeling like it made the game more linear or scripted. Yeah, it's different from the first BioShock, but that doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, it's bold for even daring to be so different. It tells a complex, layered story that's still talked about today, and while the gameplay might be more action-heavy, it's polished and engaging. So while BioShock Infinite has its detractors, it's absolutely worth playing, especially if you're into games that tackle big ideas. Next we have Ghost Recon Wildlands. It's one of those games that kind of slipped under the radar for a lot of people, but honestly, it's so much fun once you get into it. I mean, the sheer scale of the open world is wild. Bolivia is your playground, and you can literally go anywhere. I remember the first time I jumped in a helicopter and just flew over this huge mountain range, seeing the sprawling landscape below. It's kind of breathtaking, even for an older game. The thing that really stands out, though, is how flexible the gameplay is. You've got this whole squad with you, and you can approach missions in so many different ways. If you're feeling tactical, you can scout out an area with your drone, mark enemies, and silently pick them off one by one. Or you can just go in guns blazing and let the chaos unfold. And I love that both options work. There's no one way to play it. And man, playing co-op with friends, that's where it gets really fun. There's nothing quite like coordinating an attack with your buddies, where everyone's got their role. One person's sniping, another's on the ground sneaking in, and then you're calling in air support. It just makes you feel like a real squad. Of course, it doesn't always go according to plan, and when everything falls apart, it turns into this hilarious mess of trying to escape or salvage the mission. But that's part of the charm, right? I also appreciate how the game doesn't take itself too seriously. Sure, it's got this gritty cartel storyline, but the characters crack jokes, and there are these moments of levity that break up the intensity. The only downside? I guess some missions can get a bit repetitive if you're playing solo for too long. Next we have Mass Effect Andromeda. When this game launched, it got a ton of hate, and a lot of it had to do with the infamous facial animations. I mean, people were making memes about the characters' weird robotic expressions within hours of release. It was hard not to laugh, but at the same time, it took away from what the game was trying to do. On top of that, there were bugs. A lot of bugs. Some people felt the world was a bit empty compared to the richness of the original trilogy, and that really disappointed hardcore fans of the series. You know, expectations were sky high coming off the original Mass Effect trilogy, which is beloved for its deep story, memorable characters, and complex choices. Andromeda had a tough act to follow, and when it didn't hit the same highs, fans let their disappointment show. But here's the thing. If you step back and give Andromeda a fair shot, there's actually a lot to like. It's got this huge open-world feel with new planets to explore, and a brand new galaxy to discover. The combat is actually one of the highlights, really fluid and fun. If you liked the action in the original games, but wanted more flexibility, Andromeda definitely delivers on that front. Plus, the exploration aspect is pretty cool. Driving around in the Nomad, checking out alien worlds, and slowly unraveling the mysteries of the Andromeda galaxy can be really immersive. It may not have hit the emotional highs of the earlier games, but it's not without its charm. It's also worth noting that BioWare fixed a lot of the early issues with patches. So the game today is in way better shape than it was at launch. Next we have Fallout 4. This game is all about exploring a massive, post-apocalyptic world filled with adventure, surprises, and the freedom to forge your own story. Right from the start, you're stepping into a world that feels alive. Well, as alive as a wasteland can be. You emerge into this beautifully ruined version of Boston, and there's this sense of mystery about what happened, who survived, and how you'll carve out your place in it. One of the best parts about Fallout 4 is just how much freedom you have. Want to be a hero, saving settlements and helping people out? Go for it. Prefer to be more of a lone wanderer, exploring every nook and cranny at your own pace? You can totally do that too. The game really lets you make those decisions and watch as the world reacts to you, which makes it feel super personal. And the combat, super satisfying. You can target specific body parts on enemies, which gives battles a bit of a strategic twist. Whether you're up against raiders, mutated creatures, or robots, every fight keeps you on your toes. And the weapon variety is massive. You can go from a simple pipe pistol to a full-blown laser rifle. Whatever fits your style. Plus, there's so much to discover. Every abandoned shack, rusted-out car, and hidden bunker has a story, whether it's in the form of an old journal, a skeleton in an odd place, or a stash of supplies that makes you wonder who left it behind. Fallout 4 is full of these tiny details that make the world feel rich and layered, like you're uncovering secrets at every turn. Next we have Alan Wake 2. If you played the first game, you probably already know how trippy things can get, but this sequel, it cranks up that eerie, psychological horror vibe to a whole new level. It's like being stuck in a thriller novel that keeps messing with your head. And I mean that in the best possible way. So right off the bat, the atmosphere in this game is incredible. Every location feels drenched in mystery and dread. Whether you're walking through dark forests, creepy small towns, or abandoned buildings, there's this constant tension in the air, like something's always lurking just out of sight. It's not just about jump scares, though. It's that slow, creeping sense of unease that really gets under your skin. The game does such a good job of making you feel like you're never truly safe. The story? Man, it's deep. It's a blend of supernatural horror, psychological thriller, and just straight-up weirdness. You're dealing with Alan's mind unraveling, and reality itself starts to bend and twist around you. There are moments where you're not sure what's real, what's in his head, or what's being written into existence. It's this constant mind game that keeps you hooked. And what I love is how the game doesn't spoon-feed you answers. You're piecing together this puzzle, and it feels so satisfying when things click, or get even weirder. Combat is another high point. The whole flashlight and gun mechanic from the first game is back, but it's more refined this time around. You're constantly managing light and darkness, using your flashlight to weaken enemies before finishing them off. Next we have Forza Horizon 5. Even if you're not a racing game person, trust me, you'll still find something to love here. It's like a love letter to cars, exploration, and just having a good time behind the wheel. Remember when you used to race toy cars around your living room, making up little adventures as you went? Forza Horizon 5 brings that same energy, but cranks it up to 11. It's not just about winning races, though that's fun too. It's about playing. The freedom you have to do whatever you want is amazing. They've got everything from souped-up classics to hypercars that look like they belong in a sci-fi movie. And the customization. You can tweak everything. Paint jobs, performance, even little decals. It's like a car nerd's dream come true. But don't worry, you don't have to be a gearhead to enjoy it. The game does a great job of keeping things accessible. Whether you're a casual player or a hardcore racer, the controls are just buttery smooth, and the way each car handles feels unique. Want to go off-roading in a big, beefy truck? Go for it. Prefer zipping through city streets in a sleek sports car? Done. It's not just racing, it's an experience. And the best part? You don't even have to race if you don't want to. There are stunt challenges, speed traps, exploration events. It's like a big automotive playground. And the seasonal changes? Genius. The world evolves over time. So one week you might be racing in dry deserts, and the next you're dealing with torrential rain. It keeps things fresh and gives you an excuse to keep coming back. Next we have Lies of P. It's one of those games that takes a classic story and flips it into something totally unexpected. I mean, a dark, twisted version of Pinocchio? Who saw that coming? From the moment I started playing, I knew this wasn't going to be the fairy tale we all grew up with. Instead, it throws you into this grim, steampunk world where everything feels eerie and dangerous. The atmosphere is on point. There's this constant tension in the air, like you're never quite safe, even when you're just walking through a quiet alley. The game wears its inspirations on its sleeve, and if you've played Bloodborne or Dark Souls, you'll feel right at home here. The combat is that familiar, deliberate style, where every swing of your weapon matters, and timing is everything. But Lies of P adds its own twist, with the weapon customization system. You can mix and match blades and handles to create your own combos, which gives you a ton of freedom to experiment with different builds. It's honestly so satisfying when you find a combination that just clicks with your playstyle. The enemies are no joke. Each one feels like a real threat, and you can't just rush in and expect to button mash your way through. You've got to be patient, learn their patterns, and strike when the moment is right. And the bosses? They're some of the most intense encounters I've had in a while. Every time I thought I was getting the hang of things, a new boss would come along and completely wreck me. But in the best way. It's that feeling of frustration followed by pure joy when you finally take them down. If you're into challenging combat, Lies of P is definitely worth your time. It's one of those games that stays with you. Next we have Little Nightmares 2. From the moment you step into its eerie, twisted world, you know you're in for a wild ride. If you enjoyed the first game, this one takes everything that made Little Nightmares so great and cranks it up a notch. The atmosphere is even more disturbing, the puzzles are more challenging, and the story, while still cryptic, pulls you deeper into this unsettling nightmare realm. You play as Mono, a new character, but you're not alone. 6. The protagonist from the first game is there with you, and having that companion dynamic adds a new layer to the gameplay. It's cool how the game makes you rely on each other to get through the twisted environments. You'll need to work together to solve puzzles, escape enemies, and navigate the nightmarish world around you. It's not a co-op game, but that teamwork element feels fresh and gives you a stronger emotional connection to the characters. The world in Little Nightmares 2 is just as unsettling as you'd expect. It's full of grotesque, distorted creatures that'll send shivers down your spine. The design of the enemies is one of the game's strongest points. Each one is creepier than the last, and the way they move and interact with the environment keeps you on edge the whole time. There's a constant feeling of being hunted, which makes every encounter feel tense and nerve-wracking. What's really great about the game is how it balances those intense chase scenes with quieter, more atmospheric moments. You'll go from heart-pounding sequences where you're being chased by terrifying enemies to quieter, eerie sections where you're just trying to figure out what's going on.